Alan Ross, and I'm the managing editor of APC Technologies. We're here at the IRIS ODSR, which is Operator Driven Safety and Reliability Conference in Sarasota, Florida. We're sponsored by IRIS and SDT, and of course APC Technologies. We've done interviews with thought leaders and with practitioners of the operator-driven safety and reliability programs, and just the idea of changing the way we do what we do in maintenance and reliability in the marketplace. There's some fascinating interviews here. I hope you enjoy, and I hope you learn. My next guest is Steve Pullen. Steve is from Australia. Welcome.
Thanks, Alan.
We are at the conference on reliability and safety, and I've already met Steve, and we've had some fun conversations that we are not going to share here, or demonstrations of hand signals that you and I have.
Definitely not.
Okay, that's good. Steve, tell me a little bit about your background. How did you get in the industry, and why PDC Group? And
I'm an electrician by trade, and my dad thought it would be a good idea to do engineering while I was doing my apprenticeship. I thought that was a bad idea, but I got through it.
Yeah.
That was back in the 70s. And I was working on the tools in central Queensland, and the company I was working for went down the tubes, went broke.
Wow.
So I relocated back to Brisbane because my then fiance, now my wife of 41 years, we were being married in 3 months. I needed a job. So I got a job in technical sales, which I never expected to fall into. That has led me into a path of probably automation engineering. And that's been a fascination now for probably near enough to 20 years.
So automation engineering, I mean, you're talking about like 30 years ago when all of this started, right? And that was the nascent beginning of a lot of that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. A lot of it was still fairly rudimentary in improving production line facilities and what have you.
Yeah.
We did a lot of high-speed packaging installation type stuff. The company I was with at that stage, and I joined them in 2003, we did a lot of robot installations.
Oh, okay.
But that was quite groundbreaking.
Yeah.
The key to all of this, funny enough, is compressed air, pneumatics, classes for a lot.
Yeah.
In automation. But it was all very, very interesting until the company I was BDM for had gone from 15 to 127, and PDC Group became available for purchase. So my wife and I said, let's go back to a small company. We're based about 150 kilometres north of Sydney in Newcastle.
So did you buy the company?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I bought it. The company was established in 1977.
Okay.
And I bought it in 2011. So I've had it for about 12 years. The difference, when I bought the company, the exposure was that it sold, I think it was 83% of its sales, it's a sales company.
Okay.
83% of its sales was one product.
Okay.
So I set very quickly to changing that. That's worked very well in our favour. We represent a number of companies other than IRIS now.
Okay.
But the beauty of what we are doing now is that we are doing more with less.
Okay.
So we have distribution partnerships with maybe 7 companies.
Okay.
IRIS obviously being one of them.
Right.
And that suits us very well because it's our philosophy that we owe a good deal of allegiance and loyalty to those manufacturing companies that we represent. If you come to my company and say, can I buy a Fleur window? We say no. You can't buy it from us because we sell IRIS.
Right.
And we do that with Phoenix Contact and Six Sensors and the like.
Okay.
We are loyal to our distribution partners, and we're quite happy to do that. It makes our life easier.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot less mess in our life and in our structure.
Collaborative partnerships, like what you've just described, are the key, and it's got to be two ways. You're loyal to them, to Iris. Iris is loyal to you, and I've seen it work, and I love when I see it work. We do a lot. Let's switch gears a little bit. I want your knowledge power now, okay? When you think about operator-driven safety and reliability, which is what we're hearing a lot of at this conference, and we'll come back to that, but when you think about that, in where your customers are now, okay, what they're dealing with now, what are the issues that they're dealing with in your space? Tell me a little bit about your customers and speak for them. What are the issues that keep them up at night?
Newcastle is a mature market.
Okay.
This is all the impact. It's a mature market. It's an industrial city.
Okay.
Newcastle Port is the biggest coal port in the world.
Really?
It exports about 200 million tonnes of coal a year. There's ships in and out. There's 8 major berths, and there's ships in and out all the time with coal from the Hunter Valley. Now, what that means is that subsequent to the closure of BHP in 1999, the city had to reinvent itself industrially.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating. But it's done that quite well. The problem they have now is to maintain the relationships, I think, in a standalone world. Now, what I mean by that is they need to develop relationships to survive, but they don't necessarily want to be swallowed up by a multinational company.
Right.
Our manufacturing base in Australia has dropped dramatically. We don't build cars in Australia anymore. We grow a lot of grain and things. For example, Simplot, American family-owned business, Simplot, it owns large chunks of food and beverage production in Australia. They have a good relationship with their Australian facilities and the people that work in those facilities. But those facilities are now getting quite old. The one out at Bathurst in central New South Wales, it's chock-a-block full of new technology, but the facility itself has been there for a long time.
Right.
So if you couple that input of new technology with the age that I'm at, I'm 65 now, and my staff come to me for knowledge that I gained in the 70s and 80s. They don't come and ask me about high-speed technology on computers and PLCs.
Do you go to them and ask them that?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that works well for us.
Yeah.
But on the broad picture in Australia, I think the ageing population of, we call them baby boomers, it's a challenge because a lot of people are retiring, and a lot of people, we've talked about the silver tsunami?
Yeah.
I think Martin mentioned. It's a very real thing. There's a lot of people retiring.
Yeah.
Now in Australia we have a high influx from Asia. We're fortunate there. We can get a lot of Asian and Indian migrants coming in to bolster our workforce, and a lot of those are well trained with tertiary education. I don't see a lot of them in the trade area though.
Right.
It's primarily the medical and the IT area that they seem to be working. The trade area is where we're suffering.
Okay.
And I think that's going to continue on for some time. The paradox is that my dad wanted me to be an electrician. He was a fitter and turner. He wanted me to be an electrician because they were going to be needed in a few years. Well, more than ever, we need our tradesmen.
Yes.
We just don't have enough.
So that goes, let's get to the ODSR, operator-driven safety and reliability, because the same problem's there. I mean, you can't get enough operators. So for every, I think the rule of thumb is for every 20 operators, you have one tradesperson, skilled or unskilled, working to support them. And I think I've presented a statistic that that operator part is growing, the demand is growing by 13%, but the supply is going down by 5%. And so we got an 18% gap, and nobody's knowing how to fix it. So the idea that we put more, I want to say, responsibility on the operators to do some of maybe the checking, the testing, the easy parts, not necessarily doing the maintenance, but supporting the maintenance department by playing a role because they know the machinery. They know that's kind of the concept of what we're talking about, operator-driven safety and reliability. Talk a little bit about that, your perceptions of what you hear and see at this conference.
One of the things we do, which is outside of the electrical realm, is machine guarding. We sell an Australian product, industrial safety fencing. That's exactly what it is.
Right.
So if you install a robot, you need to put a fence around that.
Right.
So that when I walk past it, it doesn't rip my arm off or whatever.
Okay, so they do that?
They do that. They're an interesting beast, robots.
Yeah.
But so we do a lot of machine guarding and on conveyor lines and what have you. Interestingly enough, probably the most dangerous place I've ever been, I was at about 4 weeks ago, and it was a recycling station south of Sydney. And there was no guarding on the conveyors, there was rubbish everywhere, trip hazards, falls. So we've moved a lot of fencing into there. The problem is, when you go on site to do something like that, people look at you like you are not supposed to be there because you are going to take their job with automation, or you're going to make their job more difficult. I've learned one of the first things I do is create a bond with the operator. I will ask the operator what perhaps is the most inane question he could possibly be asked, but oh good, he's involving me.
You did that to me.
And that's
no, I'm correct.
But that's right.
Yeah.
And that's what you need to do, because I think I said yesterday, I have experience, particularly in automation land. So I've experienced open hostility when I've walked onto site, and the operators, he's here to make me redundant. He's here to make my job difficult. So I bond with the operators, and 9 times out of 10, they will tell you something that nobody else has mentioned, that you didn't know, and I probably wouldn't have thought of. It may be as simple as opening an access gate through a fence, and they'll say, but if you open that there, then we can't get that past there. So you make that gate sliding. Simple little things like that.
Right.
Now, if you take that concept and make that a little more level of responsibility, obviously you're adding to your informed workforce.
Right.
And I always think in terms of, a lot of people talk and think in terms of efficiency. Efficiency's fine, but it means nothing without effectiveness.
Right.
You have to, if you can have an effective workforce, then you'll be making more product with lower overheads in a shorter period of time. And I think that's what I've always found that's what I've learned going into these sites. If you can make their workplace more effective for them, you're going to include them in that solution, and by doing so, and this may take a few years, by doing so, we're going to ease the load on the tradesmen that we don't have.
Yeah.
Because
that's brilliant.
We just don't have them.
Yeah.
It is a pathway, and it's been said a few times now, but we've always done it that way. Stop it. Stop it. Look at, a strange example. Until Jimi Hendrix did it, nobody had ever set fire to their guitar and played it on the back of his head. But
I saw him live in person in Atlanta, Georgia.
There you go.
Like that guitar, and at one point, smoke a doobie while he played a song. Right? It was the craziest thing I've ever seen.
There you go. But it's things. Once people do something that's different, and they see the benefit of it, it becomes a little more standard procedure.
Yeah.
The problem with, it's not a problem actually. COVID has helped accelerate this process.
Yes.
I know we all talk about COVID now.
Yeah.
And the world is now pre-COVID and post-COVID.
Yeah.
We're all handling things differently. My wife and I, we've had 5 COVID injections because that's what we have to do in Australia. But what it did, and a plasterboard manufacturer in particular, they learned an enormous amount about how competent their operating workforce was during COVID, because they only needed half of them. Half of them had to go home, so they needed half this. And they found that, hang on, production's still there.
Yeah.
If we, they know what they're doing. There's not all these terrible accidents. It was kind of the middle management level that they were able to do without, which I don't really know what happened to that middle management level, by the way. That's the casualty,
Yeah.
I guess. But it's going to be interesting to see if in 12 months' time all those numbers have crept back up.
Yeah.
I've never seen McDonald's advertise for staff on television. I have now.
Yeah.
Everybody is looking for people,
Right.
trained or untrained. And if we can take that acute edge off that need by training the people that are there anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a huge aspect of in operator-driven safety and reliability. There's going to be a huge aspect of training the operators, but also training the tradespeople that are supporting them not to always rush to do it. And it's kind of like what you're doing when you're building the rapport is you're getting them engaged in helping you solve a problem. Well, then they're engaged. Now, that's part of adding value to the equation. All right, well, we've taken the time, Steve. Thank you so much. Good luck to you.
Thanks, Alan.
And I'm sure we'll talk again. I'd love to come to Australia sometime. And
Alcohol could be involved, Alan. Alcohol could be involved.
yes.
Absolutely. You'd be more than welcome, of course.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Alan.